I was standing in a half-empty parking lot behind a liquor store on a Thursday evening, staring at a pair of panties that didn't belong to me, but definitely belonged to my wife. That's how this whole thing began. I didn't plan to be there. I wasn't trying to catch her in the act or tail her like some obsessed husband with a pair of binoculars. I just happened to be out picking up a bottle of whiskey after a long, shitty day at work, and I saw her car. Or what I thought was her car. Same make, same stupid dent on the back left bumper, same little tree-shaped air freshener hanging off the rearview mirror. But she wasn't supposed to be anywhere near there. She told me she was at her sister's place, helping with something about a garage sale. But her car was parked behind this grimy little convenience store next to an old blue truck, the kind that looked like it had lived through 3 wars and smelled like motor oil and ashtrays. I didn't even realize I was walking toward it until I was standing at the driver's side door of the truck, peering in like a goddamn creep. And there it was, a small, lacy, burgundy pair of panties half stuffed under the passenger seat, peeking out like a secret that didn't know how to stay hidden. I recognized them immediately, not because I'm some pervert with a catalog of my wife's underwear burned into my brain, but because I'd bought them for her last Christmas, part of a little set I gave her along with a bottle of red wine and some body lotion she never ended up using. And in that moment, I felt this strange mix of heat and ice, like my body couldn't figure out if it wanted to explode or freeze. I didn't touch them. I didn't have to. I stood there for a few more seconds, just breathing hard, feeling like someone had punched me straight through the chest with a brick. I backed away from the truck, suddenly hyper-aware of my surroundings, like maybe someone was watching, maybe she was watching. I walked back to my car and sat inside with the engine off, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. The logical part of me, the one that normally keeps me from doing dumb things, was trying to tell me that there could be another explanation. Maybe she gave them to a friend. Maybe she lost them. Maybe that wasn't even her car. But logic had left the building the second I saw that stupid little burgundy lace. I didn't drink that night. I took the bottle home, sat it on the kitchen counter, and waited. She came home 2 hours later than she said she would, carrying a plastic bag with some dumb scented candles and a used copy of a book she claimed her sister wanted to get rid of. "You look tense," she said casually, slipping off her shoes at the door. "I saw your car near Mason's liquor store," I said without looking at her. Just like that. No warm-up, no pretense. Behind the building, parked next to a blue truck. She froze in the hallway, her keys still dangling from one hand. "You followed me?" "No," I said, standing up slowly. "I went to buy whiskey. I didn't expect to find your car there." She opened her mouth, probably to lie, but I kept going. I looked inside the truck. She didn't say anything. "There was a pair of your panties in there. Burgundy. Lace. The ones I bought you." Still nothing. She closed her mouth and stared at me like she was trying to read the exact amount of information I had. "So," I said finally, "you want to tell me what the hell is going on? Or should I go knock on the truck door next time and ask him myself?" Her face changed. Not the way I expected, not guilty or apologetic or even afraid. She looked annoyed, as if I'd just interrupted something she didn't feel like explaining. "You're jumping to conclusions," she said, dropping the bag on the table with a thud. "Oh, really?" I asked. "So whose panties are those?" "Because I know damn well they're not mine." She walked past me and poured herself a glass of water like we were having a discussion about the weather. And I stood there, feeling like I'd stepped into a different life where my wife could cheat on me and still have the audacity to look bored while I confronted her. "I don't owe you an explanation if you're going to come at me like this," she said quietly, still not looking at me. "You owe me everything," I said, voice cracking for the first time all day, and that's when I realized I wasn't angry yet. I was just hurt. The rest of that night blurred into silence. She went to bed without another word, and I sat in the living room with the lights off, staring at nothing, trying to piece together when exactly my life turned into this. I didn't sleep. I didn't drink. I didn't cry. I just stayed there, listening to the soft hum of our broken ceiling fan, waiting for the sun to come up so I could decide what the hell to do next. The next day, I didn't go to work. I called in and said I had food poisoning because that was easier than explaining that I'd seen my wife's underwear in another man's truck and now I couldn't think straight. I wasn't sick, not in the way they thought, but something inside me was definitely rotting. I stayed home and sat at the kitchen table for hours, not even touching the whiskey bottle from the night before. The apartment was quiet, except for the occasional sound of her footsteps upstairs, which felt louder than usual, like they were mocking me with every step. I didn't ask her where she was going when she left around noon. She didn't ask me why I wasn't dressed. We didn't talk at all. She just grabbed her purse, mumbled something that sounded like, "Be back later," and walked out the door like it was any other day. I waited until I heard her car pull away, then I grabbed my keys and headed straight for the parking lot behind the liquor store. The truck was still there. Same spot. Same angle. It hadn't moved. I stood next to it for a while, just staring, thinking maybe I'd get lucky and he'd show up so I could see his face, but no one came. Eventually, I got close enough to peer inside again. The panties were gone. Nothing else looked disturbed. I checked under the seat with my phone's flashlight, looked through the windshield, the passenger side, even behind the seat in the back. Empty. Clean. Either he noticed them and took them, or she came back and cleaned up her mess. I felt like I'd missed my shot. Proof was there, and now it was gone, and all I had left was my word against whatever lie she would prepare next. I didn't want to be the kind of guy who had to snoop around like that, but here I was, standing in a parking lot like a lunatic, chasing ghosts. When I got home, she was already back, sitting on the couch with her laptop open like she hadn't just been out cleaning evidence of an affair. I walked in and didn't even bother taking off my shoes. "So, you went back," she said without looking up. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. "I did," I said, walking past her into the kitchen. She closed the laptop and turned in her seat. "And they're gone," I replied. "Smart move." She didn't respond. I leaned on the counter and looked at her, waiting. She met my eyes, but didn't flinch. "I didn't cheat on you," she said, calmly, like she'd rehearsed it. "I'm not sleeping with anyone else." "Then what the hell were they doing in his truck?" I asked, louder than I meant to. "Do you leave your underwear in random vehicles now?" "I don't know," she said, shrugging. "Maybe they fell out of my bag." "That's the excuse? Really? That's what you're going with? What do you want me to say?" she snapped. "You already made up your mind." "I want the truth," I said. "Not some half-assed story about robe panties." She stood up now, walking around the couch, crossing her arms like that would protect her from whatever was about to come out of my mouth. "Okay," she said. "Fine. You want the truth? I was seeing someone. But it's over now." I felt my stomach drop, not because she said it, because I already knew, but because hearing it out loud made it real in a way I wasn't prepared for. "Who is he?" I asked, already bracing for the answer. "It doesn't matter." "It matters to me," I said. "Just some guy I met through a friend." It wasn't serious. "Oh, so that makes it better?" "No," she said. "It just wasn't about love. It was physical. That's all." "And that makes you what?" "Innocent." I could feel the anger boiling up now, rising faster than I could stop it. "You lied to me. You brought him into our life. You left your damn underwear in his truck like a souvenir." I said it's over. "When?" I asked. "Before or after I found out?" She hesitated. That pause told me everything. "I ended it today," she said quietly. I laughed, but it wasn't a real laugh. It was bitter and cracked, like something breaking apart in my throat. "Convenient," I said. "You end it after you get caught. How noble of you." "I made a mistake." "No, you made a series of decisions. You made a choice every time you saw him, every time you undressed, every time you came home and looked me in the eye." "I was lonely," she said, "and that's when I lost it." "You were lonely?" I yelled. "You have someone who's been here every damn day, working his ass off, showing up, doing everything he can to make this work, and you were lonely? I'm not saying it was your fault, but you're not taking responsibility either. I didn't plan for this to happen." "Yeah, well, neither did I." She didn't have a response for that. She just stood there, arms crossed, eyes wide, breathing hard. And I stood there too, fists clenched at my sides, the whole room buzzing with the kind of silence that's not empty. It's full of everything no one wants to say. I didn't know what to do next. I couldn't even look at her. I just turned and walked out the front door, not because I had somewhere to go, but because staying in that house for another minute felt impossible. I came back around midnight. I didn't go anywhere far. I sat in my car outside a fast food place with a coffee I didn't drink and stared at the parking lot until I convinced myself she'd be asleep. I didn't want another conversation, not then, not while I still felt like someone had pulled the floor out from under me. When I walked through the door, the lights were off, the house was quiet, and for a second, I let myself pretend I was walking back into the life I used to have. But that feeling didn't last. Her purse was on the chair. Her shoes were by the door. Her presence was everywhere, and all of it felt fake. I went upstairs, careful not to step too hard, and changed in the bathroom. I didn't even glance at our bed when I came out. I just grabbed a blanket and slept on the couch, not that I really slept. My body went through the motions. Eyes closed, breathing slowed, but my mind didn't stop for a second. The next morning, I made breakfast because that's what I do. She came down while I was pouring coffee and didn't say anything at first. She just stood near the counter, watching me like I was a stranger in her house. Eventually, she spoke. "You didn't come to bed." I didn't look at her. I kept stirring my coffee even though there was nothing left to dissolve. "Didn't feel like it," I said. She stepped forward, slowly, like I was something that might explode. "I don't know what you want from me," she said. "I told you the truth." "No, you told me just enough to make yourself feel better," I replied. "You didn't tell me why." "I already said I was lonely." "That's not a reason. That's an excuse." She didn't argue. She sat down across from me and folded her hands like we were about to have a meeting, not a fight. I could tell she'd been thinking all night, probably working on what to say, how to explain the unexplainable. "You think I don't notice things?" I said before she could start. "You think I haven't seen the way you've changed? You check out emotionally for months, and now I know why." "I didn't do it to hurt you," she said. "You didn't do it to help me either." We sat there in silence for a while. She didn't cry. I didn't yell. We just stared at the wall behind each other, trying not to admit that whatever we used to have was gone. I finally stood up. "I need to go out for a bit," I said. "Don't wait up." "Where are you going?" she asked. "Nowhere you need to know about." I left before she could respond. I didn't even take my wallet. I just grabbed my keys and got in the car. I drove with no real destination in mind, just enough to keep the tires moving. After about an hour of circling the same blocks, I pulled into the parking lot behind her work. I knew it was pathetic, but I wanted to see his truck again. I wanted to know if he was still around, or if he had vanished now that things had been exposed. The truck wasn't there, not in any of the nearby spots. I waited a while. Still nothing. I wasn't proud of what I did next. I went inside. I walked into her office building like someone running an errand. I knew the layout from the couple of times I'd visited for some company dinner thing they'd hosted. I found her floor, walked past the reception, and looked around until I saw a group of guys near the copy machine. I scanned their faces, searching for someone who looked like the type to sleep with another man's wife. As if that had a specific look. "Excuse me," I said, walking up to one of them. "I'm looking for Chris." The guy raised an eyebrow and looked at his coworker. "Chris? Which one?" "Not sure of the last name. Drives a blue truck." They exchanged a look, then one of them pointed down the hall. "End of the hallway, office on the left." I walked straight there and knocked once before opening the door. He was at his desk, tapping on his keyboard, and looked up, clearly confused. "Yeah." I stepped inside and closed the door behind me. "You know who I am?" I asked. He paused, leaned back in his chair. "I think so." "Then you know why I'm here." He nodded, but didn't say anything. "You knew she was married." I did. "And that didn't bother you?" "I didn't think it was serious," he said, like that was some kind of defense. "Married 8 years. That's serious enough for you." He didn't answer, just sat there like he was waiting for me to hit him. "I saw her panties in your truck," I said louder now. "Did you leave them there on purpose? Like a trophy?" "No," he said quickly. "That wasn't supposed to happen." "Yeah, a lot of things weren't supposed to happen." He looked like he wanted to explain, but I didn't care anymore. I turned and walked out without another word, ignoring the receptionist's questions as I pushed through the front doors. Back in the car, I sat with my hands on the wheel for 10 minutes before I could drive. I wasn't any closer to answers. I wasn't calmer, but at least now I had a face to match the betrayal. It didn't help, but it was something. I didn't go straight home after confronting him. I drove around until I ended up at a hardware store. I didn't even know what I was looking for at first, just wandered the aisles like I was waiting for something to call out to me. I eventually picked up a heavy-duty lockbox, a few packs of printer paper, a couple of USB drives, and a cheap camera. The cashier didn't ask questions, just rang it all up and gave me a half-hearted smile. When I got back home, she was in the kitchen pretending to do something, probably listening for the sound of my keys. I walked past her without a word, went straight to the office, and locked the door behind me. I spent the next few hours printing everything I could find: emails, calendar invites, photos, receipts. I didn't care how small or meaningless something looked. If it had a date or a name or a location, I saved it. The camera stayed on the desk, untouched for now. That would come later. For 2 days, I barely spoke to her. I moved through the house like she was a roommate I barely tolerated. She kept trying to talk, but I shut it down every time. Are we just going to keep ignoring each other? Seems easier. I don't want it to be like this. You should have thought about that before. She followed me from room to room, looking for a crack, any opening where she could slide in and start fixing something, but there wasn't one. I was done pretending we could talk our way out of it. I slept on the couch. She didn't ask me to come back to the bed anymore. On the third night, I waited until she fell asleep and then took her phone. I knew the passcode. She hadn't changed it. I didn't go through her messages this time. I didn't care about the past. I turned on the camera I bought and filmed the screen while I opened her browser, her photo gallery, her rideshare history. I recorded everything. Then I took her laptop and did the same thing. Her emails had enough to confirm what I already knew. She had been seeing him for at least 2 months, probably more. The tone of their messages changed over time, starting casual and escalating to something else. The last one she sent said, "I think it's better if we stop this. He knows." I copied the emails to a USB and put it in the lockbox, along with the printed screenshots and footage from the phone. I didn't know why I was keeping it all. Maybe I wanted leverage. Maybe I wanted to look at it later when I was doubting myself. Or maybe I just wanted to remind her that I had power, too. The next morning, I left the lockbox open on the kitchen table before heading out. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. When I got home that evening, it was gone. She had moved it, probably hidden it somewhere, maybe even thrown it out, but I didn't care. I had made my point. She knew I had the originals, the backups, the evidence burned into my head. We didn't speak that night, either. I went to bed early and locked the bedroom door behind me. She knocked once. "Can we please talk?" "No. I just want to understand what you're doing." "You don't need to understand. I don't deserve this." I stood up and walked to the door, but didn't open it. "You already got more than you deserve." She didn't knock again. The next day, I took the camera with me when I left the house. I parked a few blocks away from her office and waited. Around lunchtime, I saw her come out with a group of coworkers. He was with them. I turned on the camera and zoomed in as they walked together, not touching, not speaking directly, but close enough to piss me off. I filmed for 5 minutes, then left. It wasn't for legal reasons. I didn't even know what I was going to do with the footage. I just needed something to work toward, some way to build this pile of quiet revenge until it meant something. That weekend, I went to her family's place for a cookout. I didn't want to go, but I showed up anyway, smiling, shaking hands, telling everyone things were fine. She stayed by my side the whole time, acting like everything was normal, laughing at her uncle's jokes, helping her sister serve drinks. I caught her staring at me when she thought I wasn't looking. I could tell she was waiting for me to slip, to say something that would blow it all up, but I didn't. I smiled wider. I asked about everyone's jobs. I brought her mom flowers. On the way home, she finally broke. "What are you doing?" she asked in the car. "Driving. You know what I mean. I'm being civil." "This isn't civil. This is calculated. Now you care about intentions? You're trying to punish me." "No," I said. "Punishment would be public. This is private." She didn't say anything after that. We drove the rest of the way in silence. That night, she didn't come near me. I slept alone again and didn't care. I was planning the next step. It was the second Monday since she confessed, and I still hadn't told anyone. No friends, no coworkers, not even my brother, who'd usually be the first to hear me complain about anything. I didn't want pity or advice or the usual speeches about forgiveness or moving on. I wasn't interested in pretending this was just a bad patch or some lesson I was supposed to learn. I wanted her to feel what I had been sitting with every single hour of every single day since I saw what she had left in his truck. So I picked the one person I knew she would never want to find out, her boss. Not because he had any moral authority, but because her job mattered more to her than most things, and the idea that her carefully maintained image might crack in front of someone who could actually affect her career made it the perfect move. I didn't send the footage or the emails directly. I mailed a sealed envelope anonymously, typed letter inside with just enough detail to let him know exactly who the man was, when they met up, and how often it was happening during work hours. I included the photo of her getting into the truck the same day she claimed she was working late. No signature, no return address. I didn't want her fired or humiliated. I just wanted the tension. I wanted her to spend every morning walking into that office wondering if today was the day she'd be pulled into a quiet meeting or if someone would say something that told her they knew. That was enough. 2 days later, I came home and found her in the kitchen, sitting at the table with her laptop closed and her phone face down. She looked up when I entered like she had something on her mind but wasn't sure how to start. I dropped my keys in the bowl by the door and took off my jacket without saying anything. She waited a beat. Something happened at work today. I opened the fridge and pulled out a soda, letting the silence hang just long enough to push her. I got called into a meeting. HR. They said there was an anonymous letter about me and Chris. I sat down across from her and popped the tab on the can, still not speaking. Did you send it? She asked. I don't answer anonymous letters. I'm serious. So am I. She exhaled and stared at the table for a long time. They're opening an internal review, she said. They said if there's any indication we were involved during work hours, it could be considered misconduct. You were. Only once. Maybe twice. Does it matter how many times? I asked. She didn't respond. I took a drink, wiped my mouth, and looked at her. She wasn't crying, wasn't angry. She looked like someone who finally realized that consequences weren't just an abstract idea anymore. I'm probably going to be moved off my project, she said. They're saying it's to maintain neutrality, but it's clear what they mean. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with a coworker. I didn't think it would come out. Of course you didn't. You thought you were smart. Smarter than me, smarter than them. I didn't think, she said. That's the truth. You don't get to say that anymore. We sat there for a while. She didn't try to defend herself further. I didn't offer any comfort. When she finally went upstairs, I stayed at the table long after my drink was warm. I thought I'd feel satisfaction, maybe even relief, but all I felt was tired. Later that night, I went to the bedroom. She was awake, lying on her side, facing the wall. I didn't ask if she wanted to talk. I just sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the floor. I'm not staying, I said. I'll be gone by the end of the week. She rolled over and looked at me, her face empty. Where will you go? Somewhere else. Are you serious? I packed half my stuff already. I thought we were going to figure this out. I did figure it out, I said. I just didn't tell you yet. She sat up, the sheet falling to her lap. So that's it. You're just walking away. No, I'm walking forward. There's a difference. She looked like she wanted to argue, but she didn't. She just stared at me like she was memorizing the way I looked sitting there. I never meant to destroy this, she said. I don't care what you meant. I care what you did. I didn't hate you. I didn't say you did. I don't want a divorce. I didn't ask what you want. She blinked hard and looked away. I love you. No, you don't, I said. You just missed the version of me that didn't know who you really were. Neither of us moved for a while. She pulled her knees to her chest. I stood up and left the room. I didn't go to the couch. I didn't need to sleep anymore. By Thursday morning, my suitcase was zipped and sitting by the door. I'd gone room by room the night before, deciding what to take and what to leave. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I had been. I was clear. That kind of clarity didn't come from peace or forgiveness. It came from exhaustion, from hitting a point where even staying angry took too much energy. I wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. I wasn't trying to make her feel what I felt or understand why what she did couldn't be undone. I just wanted out. I made copies of the documents we needed for the split, bank info, insurance, titles, and left them in a folder on the kitchen counter. There was no note. I didn't know her anything else. She came downstairs around 10, dressed in jeans and an old hoodie she used to wear when we'd spend Sundays doing nothing. She looked like someone who didn't want to speak first, but knew she had to. You're really going through with this? Yes. She leaned against the counter, arms crossed like she needed them to keep herself upright. I still don't get how we got here. That's the problem, I said. You don't think we ever left the place we were. I messed up. I've said it. I've owned it. No. You got caught. You didn't confess. You didn't come to me when it mattered. You waited until the truth left you with no other option. I never stopped loving you. I don't believe that. Why not? Because love doesn't look like what you did. I don't even know what to say anymore. You don't need to say anything. You just need to accept that it's over. She dropped her arms and looked around the kitchen like maybe it could give her something to hold on to. I didn't move. I stood there and waited for her to say something that wasn't about regret or confusion or what she thought we could still salvage. Do you want to file? Or do you want me to? I already started it. She blinked but didn't respond. Everything you need is in that folder. Joint accounts will be split evenly. I'm not taking anything that isn't mine. I didn't think you'd be this calm. I'm not calm. I'm done. She nodded slowly. Then she stepped closer, stopping just a few feet in front of me. So that's it, she asked. We're not going to try? Not even once. We had our chance. You spent it with someone else. I was scared. I didn't know what I was doing. You knew what you were doing. You just didn't think I'd find out. I didn't want to hurt you. But you did. I hate that I did. That doesn't change anything. She reached for my arm, but I stepped back. She dropped her hand like she understood it was the last time she'd try. Where are you going? I'm staying with a friend for a while. Which friend? Someone who hasn't lied to me. Do you want me to tell people? Or do you want to? Tell whoever you want. I'm not hiding. She nodded again, slower this time, like each second that passed made everything more real. I picked up the suitcase and moved toward the door. She didn't try to stop me. She just stood there watching, breathing unevenly. Can I ask you something? She said. I paused but didn't turn around. Are you ever going to forgive me? I'm not carrying that answer for you. Then I opened the door and walked out. By the end of the week, I had a new mailing address and a mattress on the floor of a spare room at a friend's house. I ate meals alone, worked without distraction, and learned to fall asleep without checking if someone else was breathing next to me. It wasn't healing. It wasn't peace. It was something different. It was real. No illusions, no pretending. Just days and nights filled with the kind of silence that made me finally hear myself again. She texted me a few times. I didn't block her. I just didn't reply. There wasn't anything else to say. The last message she sent was one sentence. I hope you find something better. I read it once, then deleted it. It took a while before I stopped replaying everything in my head. The parking lot. The confrontation. Her face when I told her I was leaving. But little by little, it faded. Not all at once. Not in some dramatic moment of closure. Just over time, replaced by new routines, new habits, new spaces that didn't carry her shadow. I didn't burn the photos. I didn't throw away our memories. I kept them in a box at the back of the closet. Not because I missed her or wanted her back. Because they were real once, and I'm not going to erase the parts of me that believed in them. Some people say you move on. I don't think that's true. I think you just move. You keep going, one step after another, until the weight gets lighter. Until you look back and realize you're not carrying the same version of yourself anymore. And that's enough. That's all it has to be.